the first round, really, and any surprises in between. So, without further ado, Tom, who do you have number 1 overall going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Yeah, I mean, look, it's Winston Mariota, that's obvious. Just take out all the off the field issues. Jameis Winston is the best quarterback right now. He's the most NFL ready. I mean, he's at, what, 6'5"? I mean, he's 240. He has the NFL arm. He can make the throws. We've seen him. And the intangibles for me is what has to go for him number 1. He has that leadership factor when you're down or doesn't matter what situation. He is as calm and cool and collected as in the pocket as any quarterback as I've seen in a while. Of course, the big issue is, are those off-the-field issues going to be occurring in the NFL? And again, that's the big risk that you take. I mean, the worst possible scenario that you can think of when you think about this is Ryan Leaf. Of course, all the talent in the world, not as many expectations, or not as great of a career, obviously. So what do you do? I mean, you take the high risk, high reward over maybe a surefire thing when you know that possibly the ceiling with Mariota. So the Tennessee Titans, they have a lot of questions. I mean, Jake Locker retired this offseason. They're, at least in terms of the front office, Tennessee's saying that they're all in with Zach Mettenberger from LSU. I'm not too sold on that. For me, I have Mariota going at 2. I mean, whoever Tampa Bay doesn't pick is Tennessee's going to get. Because let's be honest, if that doesn't happen, Jacksonville has their quarterback in Blake Bortles. I don't think he's going to go there. Oakland, they may go with him. I mean, they drafted Derek Carr last season, so that could be, you could drop. The Redskins have RG3. I don't think they're going to pick him. The Jets at 6 could be the next possible destination for Mariota. So do you think he's going to go number 2? Or if not, how far is he going to fall? Okay, of course. So right now at 3 we have Jacksonville with Dante Fowler, the outside linebacker, defensive end from Florida. Let's be honest. I mean, it's a great pick. It's either him or Leonard Williams for Jacksonville. I mean, they have their quarterback in Bortles. Dante Fowler is a great athlete. I mean, he's a guy who can play defensive end in a 4-3. He can play the outside linebacker in a 3-4. I think it's a great pick for Jacksonville. I mean, they're on their way up. This is a pick, though, that I don't think they can miss. Just because at this point, I mean, it's going to be really. Gus Bradley is a defensive coach. We know that. But he's got to start producing offensively, and Blake Bortles has got to be on top of his game next season. The only other option that I could see being drafted at 3, of course, would be Amari Cooper, the wide receiver from Alabama. He has all the potential in the world to be the best wide receiver in this draft. Do you think Jacksonville's going to take Fowler, or what do you think? Okay. I'm going to go down to the next picks after that. I'm going to go 6, 7, 8, and 9. For number 6, the Jets, they're projected to get Amari Cooper, but if that's even if he's even available, if not, they're going with Vic Beasley from Clemson. He's a freak athlete. He looks like a Jadeveon Clowney type. In terms of athleticism, I don't know. Production is pretty good. Not as good as Clowney, but we'll see how that turns out. If not, if they're still going offense and Amari Cooper's not on the board, there's Kevin White, the wide receiver from West Virginia. He is really good. Even if Cooper is available, he has the higher ceiling, in my opinion. For 7, the top pick is Kevin White, if he's still available. And again, it's rotating between Kevin White, Vic Beasley, and Amari Cooper. For Atlanta, Alvin Dupree from Kentucky. Haven't heard too much about him other than really he's had a good season. The big pick that I've heard from Atlanta is Brandon Scherff, the offensive tackle from Iowa. And of course, big boys from Iowa, they're doing pretty well in the NFL. And for number 9, I could see either Scherff from Iowa or Eric Flowers as well. And then rounding out that, I'll go number 10, Andrus Peat, the offensive tackle from Stanford. They're going to need a block. And let's be honest, St. Louis isn't great offensively. So, I mean, just developing that offensive line for starters would be a great idea to start out with St. Louis. So. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to also go with the rest of the top half of the draft here. I have, for Minnesota, I have Devontae Parker, the wide receiver from Louisville. They have Mike Wallace there. But again, the big concern is Mike Wallace's production at this point. And Devontae Parker is really good. The other projected pick here is Todd Gurley, the running back from Georgia. Of course, Adrian Peterson has had his off-the-field issues. He's now reinstated, but whether or not Minnesota keeps him, we'll see. And if they're not going to keep him, Todd Gurley would be a great replacement for Minnesota. I mean, let's be honest, they have similar issues. Adrian had injury issues in college. Todd Gurley had that torn ACL. Adrian did pretty good. Todd Gurley is that same, not exactly the same, but a similar type mold in terms of running back. So, I mean, I would go with them if they're not going to go with Devontae Parker. Cleveland, Danny Shelton, the nose tackle from Washington. It's not a bad pick if not La'el Collins, who, again, has gotten into his own legal troubles lately. So we'll see if he's even going to be picked in the first round. The Collins from LSU, Trey Waynes from Michigan State. Most people are projecting Gurley to go the first round in Miami. I could see that happening. They do need a running back. Kevin Johnson for San Francisco, the cornerback from Wake Forest. And then Eric Armstead for the Houston Texans, rounding out the first half of the draft, the defensive tackle from Oregon. Any surprise picks really in the first round for you, Tom? Okay, so I'm going to go down to the bottom half of the draft here, um, and I'm just going to skip a couple teams here. I'm going to go to number 21, the Cincinnati Bengals. They're projected again. This is a really big projection. Um, Green Beckham, the wide receiver from Oklahoma. He didn't play at Oklahoma. He transferred there. He originally started off his career at Missouri. Had some off the field issues, domestic violence issues, which of course is a big issue right now in the NFL. Or again, they're really trying to clean up their act there. Went to Oklahoma, did not, wasn't allowed to play this season. But this is a talent that's hard to pass up in the first round if you're a GM. This guy's 6'5". He's 200 pounds. If it wasn't for his character issues, he would be a top 10, no question. He would be a top 10 pick along with Amari Cooper and Kevin White as the best receiver in the class. Again, the big issue is the off the field issues. And of course, the Bengals, they've had a history of not really doing so well with players like that. But if it turns out well, AJ Green and Green Beckham, that would be one of the best wide receiver tandems in the league by far. Tell me your thoughts on that. Okay. And then going down the draft here again, if it'll let me load here, um, at this point, the only other surprising pick I would say would, and it looks like Melvin Gordon's projected to go to the Lions down in the 20s. Um, yeah, I believe it's in the 20s. Let me just double check here. Yep, at 23. So if Todd Gurley is not available, Melvin Gordon can would be available at that point. So, Tom, you said you mentioned that Gurley could go to the Detroit Lions. What would be a better fit for Detroit? Would it be Melvin Gordon or would it be Todd Gurley? Ran for over 2,000 yards last season. Was a Heisman Trophy finalist until the game against Ohio State, where it just was just awful. Um, I mean, he's just yeah. hmm So I mean, overall, I mean, he's a great prospect. So I mean, I think go with the safe pick and pick Gordon, just because he's a proven commodity. Gurley is the big high risk, high reward at running back, and again, it's not as valued as much in the NFL as it used to be. Um, so that's just uh, my thoughts there. Any any surprise picks that you think? Well, what do you? Well, being from the Pennsylvania area, what are your opinions on